because we don't have a lot of headcount. We're only 170 people at SayGames. But our advantage is that, as I said, we have a lot of internal tools that we use to operate these games, and a lot of the things that we have that are running under the hood is automated. So our general approach automate everything. So
can you tell us what kind of tools?
This is a no bullshit gaming show where we talk about games and their revenue in great detail, powered by our ad monetization, game design, and user acquisition triple threat expertise. Welcome to the 2.5 Gamers, the unfiltered truth served with a side of giggles. Let's not forget this is a 4 a.m. conference discussion vibe, so let's not take it too seriously. Tune in now and stay 2.5 steps ahead of the gaming industry.
Making you all disappear. All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome to 2.5 Gamers. Today we have another special episode, another special review. And let's start. My name is Matej Lancaric.
I'm Felix Braberg.
And I'm Jakub Remia.
And we are your hosts. And we have Anton from SayGames here. Thanks for coming, Anton. Can you give us a little bit of introduction about yourself and an amazing company you work with?
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Anton. I run publishing ops at SayGames. My role is all the business activities, working with the new studios, old studios, legal, PR, onboarding, things like that. And another part of my job is producing games with our studios. So I'm half product, half business guy. So that's what I do. I'm in games for quite a while. I released my first mobile game on a Motorola black and white Java feature phone with buttons back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah, so 64 kilobytes file size and things like that. So, and it's been quite a few years since that happened. But yeah, now I'm with SayGames. Yeah.
Nice. And why are we here is actually, well, we covered SayGames a lot before, and you know, like going from hyper casual, I would say juggernaut. Felix, you use this term quite a lot.
Yeah, I butchered that term.
Yeah, and then you know, like we saw like all of these amazing numbers, also like you published on your website and everywhere else, like your IAP revenue is growing, and honestly, hats off, like kudos to you and the team, and like well, around all the activities you're doing. And that's why we are here, because we really admire your work and the things you've done, and we have some questions. We definitely have some questions.
Absolutely.
Because we reviewed My Perfect Hotel. We reviewed what else?
Dreamdale.
Oh, you're muted, Jakub, so yeah, Dreamdale.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, welcome back.
Our world, yeah.
Tower.
Tower War. Oh my God, yeah. And by the way, before we start, I was checking like all the numbers and things recently in Sensor Tower, and half of the games in Sensor Tower is just like translated to what, like Vietnamese style, or like some weird
Actually,
stuff is happening.
This is what I noticed earlier today as well. There must be some issue.
Okay.
With
I was
Sensor Tower, yeah.
What's happening? It was kind of funny.
I saw some weird namings on Racemaster, I think, and I saw it on Android
even on
iOS.
Tower War. Yeah, on Android. Yeah. And even
Tower
on Tower
War
War.
also like in
Yeah. Okay, so I was like, is it on purpose or is it some bug? I definitely need to ask. Okay. All right, Jakub, what we are starting with? Do you want to share some things and then walk through us?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit as usual as our kind of what's the situation happening. Let me share the screen here and we can go from there. So looking at the portfolio from Sensor Tower's perspective, like there's a pretty steady kind of flow of download still. Revenue-wise, there's a big spike, which is a little bit stabilizing, let's say, but still kind of going majority there. If I understood correctly regarding IAP perspective, Tower War, that's why you see these different characters here, what Matej was mentioning. It's currently at the top of the IAP revenue crowd, if like these numbers are up to style. And then we have the usual suspects as My Perfect Hotel, Dreamdale, Black Deck. Actually, I don't think so. We talked that much about it, but I think it's also.
I see the creatives all the time.
Yeah,
it's definitely
seems to me like a little bit more simplified Hearthstone, but still kind of doing considerable amount of IP revenue. But yeah, I guess lots of things to talk about. I would say the usual questions, as we have other publishers already here, is what would be your take on the experience of changing from hyper casual to hybrid casual? Or like how did you approach it when, for instance, you would go and say, okay, guys in My Perfect Hotel, please implement more IP stuff, or guys at Dreamdale, or like what is the focus of the company?
So it's a continuous process, and it has many factors that you have to consider. First of all, kind of product side, then marketing, analytics, things like that. So, and we're working in all of these directions at the moment. So, and all of them are kind of hard to do because from the product side, you have to build the expertise in terms of what our teams are doing and what kind of talent they have, what experience they have in terms of building these kind of games. Second is obviously marketing part, which is very much different from what we had during the hyper casual era. Next one is analytics and all the internal tools that we have, because we're not using anything third party. Well, except Attribution and obviously ad networks, analytics system, the A/B test, everything is in our SayKit, which is our SDK. So, and we have quite a big product team working on all these tools and products every day that help us and developers build those games that we publish.
And would you say, for instance, your publishing goals, or let's say the approach towards external developers change compared to something like, I don't know, like the example that we got from Voodoo, that for instance, now they internalize all the teams. They don't really work with external people. So like they want to get everyone in. So something's changed there?
This is something that I've heard about their approach, and every publisher, I think, is different. What we believe is we have to build the expertise in our teams rather than having them build a prototype and then taking that game away from them. So they don't actually get an experience in scaling the team, building the team, having that experience of actually transitioning from hyper casual to hybrid casual, because it's a very difficult and long way to successfully transition from just interstitial based level based game to something like, I know, Tower War, for example. So we our approach is we do everything to help them make the transition, whether it's kind of our help from the producer side or analytics side or financial, legal, whatever help they need, we help them. And we nurture that transition because for us it's not a game-based approach where we just find a game and we launch it. For us it's a team-based approach. So even if we don't launch any particular title to global, there's a high probability that by getting enough experience, a team will eventually be able to release a big hybrid casual hit.
Okay. Regarding the KPI goals, I know this was like very, very typical for the hyper casual era. Everybody had their, like, you need to hit whatever this day 1, this day 3, this whatever CPI. Have any of those changed also? As if you're, let's say, looking at stuff coming into your pipeline, like what would be the North Star KPI now?
Not really, because there are so many more factors now that you have to take into account when testing a prototype and then go into soft launch and going global. We do have metrics for all the key kind of genres, the internal kind of benchmarks, obviously, and we compare all the titles between each other. But it's never a decision-making point whether the game is gonna release or not, because at the end of the day, it's all about whether we can launch all those campaigns and whether it's going to be profitable. And some of the metrics can be quite different from one game to another. And the important part is not to kill a hit, in the process of kind of trying to align everything with a simple kind of benchmark system.
Okay, how do you find that hit and define that hit early on then?
The process is I saw this guy walking, strafing. Funny, I gotta look at it wrong. We start early with simple, not scaling anything, simple tests on Facebook where we test initial metrics and see how the games are performing on a very small number of players with some baseline metrics, and then we start iterating it if we see a potential. Like there has to be something where we see a potential. For example, marketability can be amazing, but the product metrics can be not good. So then we start iterating on a product, and there are very different scenarios at this point. And then when we reach a point where we believe, okay, we have to test it on a larger amount of network, this is where we soft launch and see, how campaigns are performing, what's our big strategy on all the other networks, and it goes from there.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Moving forward, would you say like how long the development lifecycle stretch now from hyper casual to hybrid that you consider like worth going? I mean, what would a typical hybrid game now be within your pipeline? Like three months until the MVP, or like the baseline, or 6 months, or something like that? Because I definitely know that like we're past this kind of 4-week schedule that was before done. So now I guess it's a matter of like how many iterations you are willing to get this, as you said, like something that is showing up.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it varies a lot, and by team or by a product. For example, you can spend 6 months building a game, a prototype, and then you launch a prototype, and the metrics are not great based on whatever factors like marketability, for example. And then you change that prototype. You just change the setting or some of the mechanics, and then you spend 3 weeks building that a new prototype based on something else. So how do you measure that? There can be many scenarios, but generally, obviously, the times when you can come up with a hybrid casual MVP hyper casual MVP in 2 weeks are gone. Normally, it's months now, every approach has its kind of consequences. If you try to build games for kind of content scaling in the first place, that means it will take you longer to plan everything, all the technical kind of parts of the production. But then, if you have a hit on your hands and you have to scale, then it will be much easier for you to actually do it, rather than you build something quick and then you test it and you see the potential and you're like, okay, this gotta go live sooner than later. And then you realize, but your game is not ready for content scaling, or your team is not ready for scaling. So there are some factors that you have to account for when producing games like that.
The minimal amount of content when going global?
It depends on a genre. It depends on a game. on the monetization. When the game was launched, it had just a few days of content but then you're asking about all the players or paid, like people who pay, because those are quite different
much
audiences.
faster.
Yeah, so you have to. So the story for that game is a bit different from what you've been kind of describing in the past, because
yeah, that's great if you can correct us. Like we really
appreciate
that.
It wasn't when that scale happened last August. It wasn't when the game was launched. It was launched exactly 1 year earlier, and I mean exactly. It's like the same day. It was a very interesting coincidence. So when it was launched in August 2022, this is when it had just a few days of content, and it didn't have a lot of in-app purchases and in-app monetization back then. We've started with a very, very simple approach with just having no ads. And then you could buy some soft currency in the game shop. But then we spent 1 year kind of building that game, because it showed some very, very promising results in the first place. But then it kind of scaled down, and exactly a year later, this is when a big breakthrough happened. So by that time, we already had many days of gameplay for a paid user. So we've been accounting for that. So we've been very lucky when that scale happened. We actually had a game in our hands that was ready for that scale. We had enough content. The in-app monetization was good enough for that time period, and we didn't have to kind of start running and scaling that team in that organic way. But obviously, everyone who was in that team at the time started working on that project and stopped everything else that was in the pipeline.
Regarding one other thing, if we can go specific on My Perfect Hotel, I know there was some kind of quite a significant update somewhere there, I think during December last year, where there was the permanent progression actually added into the game, which is this thing where pretty much the quest system, I don't know if I have it, stopped giving hard currency. It's actually not giving this kind of permanent progression currency. This is pretty much like a question in context of this update. How do you approach now the live ops of these hybrids, or like the teams and like the structure now that like when you have the hit, because okay, we're past this point as you described when My Perfect Hotel really scaled up. So what happens afterwards? And like, for instance, how this iteration was done, if you could talk a little bit about it.
So the general approach is you start thinking about what are the new monetization layers can you add to an existing game. So this is a natural kind of process for all the hybrid games, especially when they are launching being a sort of a hyper casual state when you just have a lot of ads and just a bit of kind of no ad situation, and maybe a shop where you can buy some currency. So you start thinking, so what can we do here? And obviously character progression is the first thing you start thinking about. And it's a first iteration. We think it's not perfect. But it works as it is right now, and we're working on an updated version for that thing, and much more things related to other layers of monetization. So the process is I think it's the same for every product. You'll find ways to add more depth to the game. The character progression is just one of them. well, fingers crossed. Let's see what happens next.
One other kind of a very, I would say, SayGames specific question, if I can move here. So
he probably knows.
This is like really like by the looks of it, as like we like covered a lot of hybrids on the market. I think like most of the big ones actually, and by looking at like a lot of teams have their own kind of secret sauce. I wouldn't even say secret sauce, but basically the pipeline, how they release hybrids. The one thing that I noticed within yours that really differs compared to other studios is that rather than building metagame templates and metagame kind of progressions as a template and then threading different core gameplays into it, you do the other way exactly, which means you find a good performing core, like it was done with My Little Universe, which was then translated to something like Dreamdale, My Perfect Hotel, King or Fail. And you let, if I understand, different teams execute on the same core with different meta game idea. Like the recent one being, for instance, the States Builder, War Regions Builder, which is also doing like kind of similar core to Tower War, where it's this kind of a tower node gameplay. One is a combat PvP one, the other one is idle one. Again, the previous example where like we have a very similar core there. So do I see the pattern rightly here that you kind of try to take advantage of like a very solid core with good day one retention and then leave other teams to experiment with the meta and the setting?
I guess the short answer is no, because it's up to every team to actually build their own kind of general game idea. And it's just, for example, idle arcade genre has its own rules that you have to go with in order to build a great kind of core loop system. Obviously, it has a character moving around. Obviously, it has some resources that you have to find. You chop trees in Dreamdale, or you build rooms and collect cash from those rooms in My Perfect Hotel. So every game is very much different. We think that Dreamdale, My Little Universe, so they're very much different games in terms of their core. And those are built by different teams. If we see some similarities in the core loop, that means either it was the same team behind these titles, or something else happened. But we generally don't have like a blueprint for a core mechanic. There's some knowledge that we have about the genre, in every particular genre, and we can share that knowledge between the teams, and that really helps them to find what works and what doesn't before they actually start building something or test something. But we don't have this blueprint for everyone. Okay, you follow this set of rules and you're gonna have a successful kind of core gameplay.
It's great that you're saying, because like on the outside, again, we can just assume and expect. So thank you for that one. Yeah, Matej.
No, it's generally it doesn't happen that way. Every team is independent. They do what they gotta do, what they want to do in terms of their products. And we just help them iterate, and we tell them, we share some knowledge in terms of what works and what doesn't, in both kind of core gameplay mechanics and meta systems. So if you see some similarities between the titles, that just means there is something that we know about this particular genre that we share that experience between the teams, and they just utilize that knowledge in the right way.
Regarding thanks for like correcting that, because as I said, like there are some things that we see similarities with. Like if I compare to something like, for instance, Hobby Pipeline, we can clearly see that there's a template behind those games because it is a metagame template. But as I said, like everybody has their own kind of way, and that's the nice thing to kind of look around. If we then look a little bit closer to, or let's say a little bit closer on Tower War, it's currently I would say it's this kind of a unseen success that everybody saw. Of course, we covered it on the episode, but it's, I think, just slowly kind of scales up and up and up and up and up. So can you talk a little bit more like how's the progression of that game going? Because I think it's rather unique compared like to other games we've seen executing on the same like nodes mechanic. It's of course the Mushroom Wars thing that's been taken on the market.
It's just an example of how we approach our products. So we started working on that game a while ago, years ago, and we saw the potential, and a lot of resources has been put into the production of that of the game from the developer side, and there has been a lot of focus from our side as well in terms of many iterations in terms of creatives and playables. Analytics part was done properly, and a large part of our analytics team is working on this title on a daily basis. From the product point of view, we just keep iterating, adding new challenges, adding new levels, content. So it's just a continuous process. There is no kind of magic in here. It's just a game that has been performing well from the very beginning, and we just kept iterating, improving the metrics, improving the long-term metrics as well. So this is our focus at the moment, and we are where we are at the moment. But it's been a somewhat a success, but it's not over yet, and we're going to continue investing in this title, and it's going to grow in the future.
Yeah, because my question, let's say a little bit of addition to the question is that a lot of games, or let's say a lot of portfolios or companies, they kind of focus on few games primarily, as they are the breadwinners or the main kind of drivers of their portfolio, and then usually don't either have the capacity to support that many titles. Like you have a lot of titles in your portfolio.
Yes.
So resources get switched, like you said. My Perfect Hotel skyrockets, everybody kind of leaves everything and goes help that team and so on and so forth. So the question would be like how much of the current capacity of the company you dedicate to new games development and old games live ops maintenance now that we are in hybrid era, so no more hyper era.
So it kind of works both ways. Since our main kind of goal is to successfully publish games, and we help our teams that we work with to make games, but we don't do that for them. It's up to any particular team to continue investing in their own operations and be able to scale a particular title in terms of content and features and that affect the overall kind of metrics and progression. But on our side, because we don't have a lot of headcount, we're only 170 people at SayGames. But our advantage is that, as I said, we have a lot of internal tools that we use to operate these games, and a lot of the things that we have that are running under the hood is automated. So our general approach automate everything. So
can you tell us what kind of tools you mean? It's like an example.
For example, the SayKit SDK I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a big part of our product suite that our teams actually work with. The analytics part that is included to the SayKit. So we have our own analytics system that all of our teams use, and it was we started focusing on in-app monetization and hybrid games around 3 years ago, and we started. Just our main goal was to continuously work and iterate on our internal products to be able to build those bigger games better. In terms of UA, we have a lot of automation in place. So we don't have a very large UA organization, but the tools that we have in place that are internal tools that the UA team uses is a very important part of our success.
So you build those tools in-house?
Yes.
Nice.
All of them.
How long does it take to build a tool like that? Months, years?
So many years. We started from the beginning of SayGames. We SayGames. It's a public story. I can give you some glimpse on that. So SayGames started as a game developer. So the founding team started working on a game, and they wanted to publish that game with another publisher, and the publisher said no. So they said, okay, we're going to build our own set of tools.
I love it.
That's usually how these stories are. Perfect.
We're going to build our own publishing organization. We're going to build our own set of tools needed to launch these games. And this is how it started. And the thing is that at this point, you're talking about like how many months or days or whatever it takes to do it. For example, if you start a publishing company now, SayGames is light years away from anyone who is starting in terms of the those products that we've been building for all these years, because at least half of the SayGames organization is working just on things like analytics, SDK, and things like that, monetization.
Well, now it's super effective, I guess, right? So
it is
definitely that investment made sense.
Yeah.
If we shift gears a bit and talk a bit about ad revenue, right? Because you guys have been in a quite interesting journey where you went from probably 98 to 100% of ad revenue based, now to getting a lot of IAP revenue as well. So yes. I estimated in my perfect hotel that ad revenue is probably anywhere between 60 to 70%. Is that about right, or is it higher or lower?
It depends on the platform. It depends on the UA channel. Depends on the campaign optimization. If you look at the bigger picture, my perfect hotel is somewhere between 20 to 30% in-app revenue at this point.
Cool. Nice.
But it started with 7%, 8%. So,
yeah.
Okay. That's very interesting.
This is the progress that we've made. But it wasn't just the product; it also the kind of the campaigns we run. This part changed a lot. Everything has changed since then. So,
yeah. When we had Alvaro from Voodoo on, we had a little bit of a chat about Skip-It and how they implement Skip-It. They went the ticket route, which is basically you buy the tickets, and SayGames does his own thing where basically users can use the premium currency to skip rewarded ads.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about the implementation and kind of the results you saw?
Again, we don't have a general approach here. We just test everything, and every team has its kind of right to do whatever they want. In some of the games,
That's nice.
For example, Dreamdale, you can see that there's a hard currency, there's soft currency, and there are tickets. So this game uses everything. We've launched My Perfect Hotel with just tickets, but then when we've been adding more features such as character progressions and battle pass, things like that, we realized that tickets is very difficult to use to scale your game economy. For example, a ticket is a ticket. You cannot use 2 tickets to skip an ad, or an in-game item is not necessarily a one ad worth one ad. Okay, so you have to introduce some type of a hard currency in order to build your game economy.
So we get granularity, I would guess.
Yes. So you can spend 1 crystal. You can spend 10 crystals for any particular in-game transaction. And also hard currency is a large part of user spend. So people just keep buying crystals in order to decrease the time spent on different kind of game aspects and things like that. So for My Perfect Hotel, it was a decision based on just that factor, and we've tested it, and it was performing better, and we decided we're gonna keep it. And also, I've looked at this data recently. Even if you have some hard currency on your game account, and you have an option to watch an ad or skip this ad with hard currency, there is a cohort of some part of paying users that still watch ads. So, and by removing that option from them, you're actually removing an option for further monetization of a paid user. So, so there are many kind of different examples from different titles that you can use to do something differently in your game. But for hotel game, the decision was based on just kind of economy scalability. But we are now going to test a version where we're gonna return the snippets back to the game and see how the audience is gonna react to those. So how they're gonna use both tickets and hard currency in My Perfect Hotel rather than just hard currency.
Yeah. Giving the option to skip the ads, though, if you had to say a number, if you say it's like a single-digit percentage or a double-digit percentage, like what roughly is the impact on actually having this as a vector inside of the games or allowing users to skip it, like on the bottom line?
It depends on how many paying users you have. So if you have a large percentage of your audience is the paying audience, that means a large percentage of them are going to skip ads. But you know that the majority of audiences is an ad consuming audience. And obviously a very, very large percentage of people are just going to watch ads rather than use snippets. So if I understood your question correctly, but rewarded ads is a very big part of in-game economy. So our general approach is to increase rewarded ads and in-app revenue and decrease the interstitial kind of part of the total revenue. So that's the way we can do it.
And what's your opinion on interstitial ads, right? It's the genre, or it's kind of the ad unit that everyone loves to hate, right? But how do you balance frequency with retention?
The interesting part is that we've tested interstitials in many ways. With 5 billion downloads, I don't know how many billions of interstitial ads we've served over time. I think maybe 1 trillion or whatever. But we just keep testing it every day on all the games. The general approach is that if you will remove the interstitials completely, this may affect your product monetization in a big way. So, and we don't think it's something necessarily very bad. We just try to make it more friendly to an end user. And again, it varies from a product perspective. It varies from the platform perspective. For example, the ad behavior in iOS and Android is different from the user base point of view. And you just have to test it. At some point, you find a golden ratio between rewarded ads and interstitial ads by testing all the different settings and finding a setting where it doesn't affect your retention rates anymore, or it doesn't improve your retention rate anymore after you've reached a certain kind of threshold in terms of the interstitial ads, but also it doesn't hurt your monetization in the short term.
For us non-ad monetization people, how that ratio could look like? Like 5 interstitials or 10, or like how is that kind of ratio could potentially look like? Or can you explain that a little bit more? What you are looking for? Just at least like high level, because it's kind of interesting.
Again, there is no answer because we have so many games, and we have 150 games at this point launched. So there's just no. If we can talk about one particular game and and its monetization approach, we can talk for days about one game and how we, for example, if we'll take Dreamdale or we take Perfect Hotel, we had hundreds and thousands of tests based on how exactly we're going to monetize the user base with interstitials versus rewarded ads, and that approach changes over time from things like you just set different timers in terms of how soon you're going to launch an interstitial, what's the kind of the countdown time between the interstitials, and whether the rewarded ad impression affects your interstitial timer in whatever way. So there are so many things that you can account for, but also we also automate things. And now our approach is we are leaning towards an approach where we don't have to test anything. Something else somewhere else is going to test everything for us. So it progresses every day. We started with a very simple setting. We have a timeout between two interstitials. That's it. This is how we started many years ago. Now we have a variety of timers that you can use, and different logic of interstitial kind of mechanic, and how interstitial and rewarded work together. So you can have dozens of different types of setups for every particular game or genre that will work best for this particular game or genre in terms of the actual ad monetization. But there are two things that affect ad monetization. First, obviously, your playtime and retention. So the bigger playtime you have, the more interstitials you're going to serve. Yeah. And then the way you build your game economy. So the better the game economy is, the more rewarded ads you're going to be seeing on average in every particular country. So in terms of rewarded ads, obviously the more the better. In terms of interstitials, sometimes we face an issue that there are too many of them. So because that affects your CPMs and things like that. So sometimes we have too many, and we decrease that amount by kind of relaxing the timers and other settings.
That brings me to my last and question I've been wanting to ask the most is, do you segment users' ad experience based on any factors? Like, do all users have the same ad experience, or can they have different ones?
Well, as I said, a platform can affect that experience. Now we factor many things such as country, and whether we know if that user has high probability of paying and things like that.
So
but we're still in the process. Yeah. Yes, but we are still early days in this particular kind of setup and set of tools. We didn't used to segment kind of ad monetization at all in the early days. Now every day we're trying to add more things into the picture and be smarter about how we actually serve ads to any particular user.
Does UA campaign play a part in how you segment users' ad experience as well?
Depends on the game.
Yeah.
But we do have some titles that have this factor, because, for example, a bigger game has a higher chance of having, in terms of like a deeper monetization, like an app monetization, has a higher chance of having an in-app based optimization. So therefore, you have to be very careful with how you treat those users with interstitial ads in particular.
Yeah, I wanted to answer that. Like, as soon as you have more IAPs and more like a 50-50 split, that's like more like when you segment by campaign and UA.
Absolutely.
Rather than just hyper casual-ish.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, like in that case, like you mentioned a lot of times the automation, like you don't have like a big team in terms of the UA and craze. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about like the structure, like how that looks like, and who is in the team? Because that's interesting.
I think I think it's very much similar to every other folks in the industry. Obviously, if you take into account just the marketing team. So it's very simple. It's nothing different from any other company. There are people that work with a particular ad networks. There are people who, work on just monetization analytics and things like that. If we talk about creatives production, this is something we've been investing in for many years. So we have one of the best teams, I think, in the industry in terms of playable ads.
No doubt.
We've made some huge progress. Before that, we've made huge progress with video creatives, where we've been launching games with hundreds of millions of downloads, and every game that we launch has hundreds of creatives created and iterated with taking account different things like the visual style and like the external research that we obviously do when thinking about kind of what works, what doesn't, and what are the latest kind of social network trends out there, and where the market is going in general. So,
how big is the team? Because, like you said, like it's hundreds of millions of downloads and hundreds of creatives.
Yes. Well, the creative team itself is dozens of people, obviously. So it's a large organization. And it's led by some very, 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 very good folks that we have in the company. So we're very proud of the team.
100%. I mean, we saw a lot of different games actually taking inspiration from your creatives. Like now we showed Coin Master creative, which, well, let's call it got heavily inspired by one of your creatives. Not even created by your game, My Perfect Hotel. So
obviously this happens all the time. This is how industry works, and we don't have any problem with that. So someone has to find an idea, and then someone else will iterate on that idea and make this idea better or not. But then your next goal is to find another idea, and this is how it works here at SayGames. We are constantly in search of new ideas in terms of games and monetization types and obviously creative and playables.
What's that process all about? Because it's not easy, right? And it's like it's quite hard, not even like find the new idea in terms of the creatives. And now you're talking about the games as well and monetization like methods.
In terms of the product side, we're very happy to be working with a lot of very talented people as our developer partners, and obviously this is our source of inspiration, and this is how those games are created, because we never go to a team and say like, do this game for us, or we have an idea, how about you build this prototype for us. So it only works the other way around. We only talk to our teams and listen to their ideas, and then we help them kind of select those ideas on early stage, or but our general approach is we just test everything and see what kind of works and what doesn't. It's all data driven, and I think a large part of our kind of creativity is based on the analytics side of business. Everything we do, we test. All the product decisions, all the kind of creative decisions, the marketing part, everything is data driven. So it's very easy not to miss a good idea. So this is, I think, is something that we should be proud of, and this is what we've been focusing on for the entire kind of company existence. Everyone here has as much kind of capability and freedom to come up with different great ideas, but all those ideas get tested. And this is how we find great ideas, and we don't go forward with something that doesn't work simply.
Okay, and regarding the ideas, like if and I guess like this was an idea of some of your colleagues. Like, I have an idea to scale My Perfect Hotel. How does that like decision is made? Because You said it was a different game before. You made the different iterations and added a few things, and then like it scaled rapidly. It scaled a little bit down. So like, what are the boundaries like to when to scale and when to scale back? How do you evaluate those?
It just doesn't work that way for us. So if we have a game that is scaling, it's not because we've made a decision to do so. Okay. It's just we did something in the first place that allowed this scale to happen. Obviously, our goal always to make our games bigger, but within our profitability goals. But it's never like, okay, I think it's time to scale this game, so we push a magic button and it just happens. So
I've heard that before.
There's no SayGames button to press.
No, there's no big green SayGames button that is magically creates hundreds of millions of users. Yeah,
that would be nice. And you mentioned profitability. It's like what, like mainly looking for like day 90 payback period or 60 or longer. But if you can, okay, let's call 90. You say more or less.
Again, what game are we talking about? What platform and what optimization type? Generally, I can tell you one thing.
In general, like how do you think about it?
We try not to work with genres or games that have 1 year recoupment window. So
that's very good.
That's a good start. Yeah, that's a good start.
In most cases, we recoup faster than that. It's just, this is our kind of threshold that we have kind of internally, because everything that is over a year kind of recoupment period is very difficult to kind of account for and to predict.
Nice. Okay. So in that case, anything between 3 months to 1 year, and I would think it's more closer to like 3 months, max 6 months. But that's just my like thinking out loud. You don't need to comment on any of that. But I would say iOS My Perfect Hotel, 3 months, 6 months. Okay. Blink twice.
Maybe more, maybe less.
Yes. Okay. Okay. No. Good.
It's not telling.
Okay. Don't worry. No worry, it's all good. It's all good. Now it's what I wanted to hear, because like we hear all these like different stories from different gaming companies. We target 2 years payback period. But yeah, of course. If it's a match-free game or casual or whatever else, then maybe. If it's something else, then it's definitely shorter.
Again, we are in the business where we have a shorter kind of recoupment periods compared to genres like casinos or classic casual titles with just enough monetization. It's just a very different business, very different products, very different monetization and everything related to operating these games.
Yeah, and also if you're going from like hyper casual games, and also the payback period is quite short rather than just 2 years. And if you are not used to that, and even in this kind of market and conditions and everything,
and obviously this rapid change from having a hyper casual game with 7 days recoupment period to a business where you are acquiring users for like 3 years recoupment period, or it cannot happen over time.
Yeah,
we may eventually get there, but we are not there yet for reasons that we can't control, because you cannot just build things that fast. You cannot build games like that fast. So we had our first wave of big hybrid casual games like a couple of years ago, and now we're at the point where now we have some titles in the kind of pre-launch phase that have been in development for quite a while. So this is the time where we're able to use all that knowledge that we were able to get over the last couple of years. So we're not there yet. We are not anywhere close to a point where we're happy with our kind of results in terms of hybrid monetization. But we are getting there. We're working on that, and it's just, as I said, we haven't reached the point where we're saying, okay, now we are very successful in this particular kind of monetization, and we've done all we could, and there is nowhere to grow.
By your internal metrics, what would you say is the title where you're the closest to perfection for hybrid casual right now?
I think internally we believe that Dreamdale, Tower War, Black Deck, Squad Alpha are the strongest games that we have in terms of in-app monetization. But again, they're all early stage. Dreamdale is still being kind of developed in a rapid pace. All these games that I mentioned are still kind of big development teams are allocated, where we're still iterating and trying to push the boundaries here in terms of how we can scale those games and what revenue kind of numbers we can achieve with them.
Do you think you need to hire people with, let's say, more mid-core IAP monetization skills, or you are kind of betting on your own team that you are kind of going to grow?
Learning along the way?
Learning on the way.
Oh, we've been doing this for quite a while now. We have straightened our producers team, analytics team, UA team with people who had this experience in the past. So we've been working on that for years now. And obviously the founding team, everyone here at SayGames has their own experience in operating casual and mid-core games. It's for us, a hybrid casual kind of genre wasn't where we started. It's just hyper casual was a breakthrough success for us as kind of individual people and the organization in general. But we've been doing various different things in the past, including mid-core and casual.
Okay, nice. And what do you think you are you said like you are on the way, it's still the beginning. What do you think you're missing at the moment, like in terms of, let's say, monetization in Dreamdale?
There's nothing that we're missing. It's just you cannot build things faster that they can be built. We're not in a kind of aluminum cans production business where you just stamp them. So it's a creative process, and products have to be scaled in terms of content. Teams have to be scaled. You have to hire proper people to every individual team, and then you have to realign the structure. So this transition from hyper casual, where you had a couple of people, just one artist and one programmer creating those games, is just we're not in that situation anymore. So these products are much more complex, and they take years to develop and to get to the point where we'll say, okay, we're now happy with this product. So
what's the end game? Yeah, what's the end game for you? Because we are talking about like hybrid casual being like a stepping stone. Like, what's the end game? Casual, mid-core, hardcore, or just? I mean, I'm just reading from the hip.
you keep asking questions.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I can answer as much. As broader give you as broader answers as I can. There's no end game, because every company has its kind of path, and we're still growing, and we are learning, and we are building our tools. We are working with our teams to make those games better and bigger. Who knows where this is going to lead us? Okay. So,
I mean, that's fair enough, because some companies say, oh, we, like this is something we are working on now, but we want to move to like a casual gaming studio and like in the future. So that was
or like a target goal for instance, for like company revenue being driven by IP ratio to
for example,
whatever. 50%, blah blah blah.
For us, it's not very easy to predict because we have a large portfolio of games, and obviously not all the games that we have in our portfolio are hybrid casual. So even if you build a game like Dreamdale, and even if you reach 50% in app revenue for this particular game, there's still gonna be a lot of titles that are ad driven in terms of their monetization. For every particular title, we have our internal goal. So, okay, so this is where this game is going. This is what we're going to do. This is the plan. So this is the team that is being allocated. This is what we're focusing on in terms of kind of what producers are doing with this particular game. You know, how do we research market for features and things like that. What the UA team is doing. So it's all very much product based. Our goal is to create those very big products that are they can stand out in the market. And when you say, okay, so My Perfect Hotel is something to talk about, but are we there for this particular game in terms of in-app monetization? No, we are still working on it, and it has a very, very long way forward before we can say, okay, we're now happy. Obviously, we'll be very happy when this game will reach like 50% in app revenue, but so many things have to happen before we'll get there, such as maybe we'll have to change our optimization in terms of marketing. Maybe the entire marketing approach will change for that game. Maybe the one feature out of many features that we're building right now will affect the monetization so much, and this jump from whatever 25-30% to 50% is going to happen unexpectedly. So obviously we want to build bigger games with more revenue coming from in-apps and coming from more revenue in general, not just in-apps, because we keep investing our ad monetization as well. And it's still a very large part of our kind of business, and it's going to be like that. But yeah, we are in the process of building something great. If it's going to be a game that is going to be another breakthrough hit, if it's going to be enough revenue, great. If it's going to be ad revenue, also great. You never know what you're going to have.
Sure. Money is also revenue, is still revenue. If it's ad revenue or IAP revenue, I don't care. Yeah.
Revenue is still revenue.
Yeah, revenue is still revenue.
Yeah. Ads are beautiful, though. Don't forget.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Should we end there?
I think this was great.
Good. Yeah.
You guys. It's been very interesting. Thank you for your question.
It's been very interesting even for us, because can correct some of our bullshit. And also, thank you for sharing some of the benchmarks and numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very, very insightful.
Yeah, because we always talk about things from the external point of view, and from the outside, and the numbers that we can get, and they're not always correct. So you corrected us a few times, which is great. Anything you want to share with the audience? Just in the end, they want to approach you, where they can meet you and send an email or just add you on LinkedIn.
We're happy to talk to teams that have experience in in-app monetization. We want to learn from them. Also, we have a lot of experience that we can share. If you guys want to work with us, please get in touch via LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to answer, and we can talk further.
And say 2.5 Gamers sent you.
Yes. I was referred by Matej.
Yeah.
How about we...
Yeah, the annoying guy who asks a lot of different questions and annoying questions. That's all me. No, Anton, thanks. Right. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. All right.
Right. Thank you guys for listening. Please, Anton, don't leave yet. Don't leave us yet. So thanks, guys. I'm not sure when this is gonna be live, but we're definitely gonna be in Cyprus at the end of the month, which is GDCY. So if you wanna meet us there, please come. It's gonna be swag, t-shirts, whatever else.
Anton is definitely getting a t-shirt, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely a t-shirt for sure. And yeah, thanks again. Please share, subscribe, and then see you next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.